Okay, so everybody hears me okay back there? Perfect. My name is Christian. I lead the Flower Platform Diagramming project. And I'm going to tell you a story today, which starts with a client of ours who called and told me, I want you to build me uh, an enterprise application. And I said, okay, but you know what? I want it to be to have it a front end based in HTML5, to have JavaScript and CSS3. I want it to have a responsive layout, uh, so that when the application changes size, uh, the browser, it adjusts the layout of the component. And I wanted to be able to run it on mobile devices. Why not as native apps? So what do I say? Can I do that? Can you do that? And I said, okay, sure. I'm an expert. Already done that several times before. Although that was not exactly the truth. Actually, I had no clue about HTML5, about JavaScript whatsoever. So what do? I start digging because I need to find out how I can do all those things. I want to know what's the dev flow. I want to know what are the IDEs that people use. How do I debug? Because debugging it's an important stuff. What are the frameworks that I can use? How do I communicate with Java? And what about best practices? How should I write code? How should I write code in Java? I start reading, searching the internet, writing small prototypes. It took me about 2 weeks to come to some results. Um, as for IDE, I said let me try Orion because I see that people now more and more begin to use it. And as for the frameworks, there were several choices, and I have chosen a mix between Twitter Bootstrap, between RequireJS, BackboneJS, and jQuery. The project lasted about 6 months. I mean, the first pre-production version, and everybody was happy. But I was not quite that happy because there was a question that was bugging me. And that question was, what can I do to help other people leverage all the know-how that I have acquired during this new project, learning all these new technologies. So in other words, if I were to turn back time, how could I, what kind of help, what would I like to have in order to be productive and write a good application? So what I would like would be, first of all, a starting point, an empty base, an empty project where that contains every libs that I need to use, and that already has a default look and feel that looks nice. And besides that, I would like to have a tool that could do what? So I would like to draw entities on a diagram, to drag links between them, and based on those elements, I would like to have code generated and screens. Let's not forget we are in an enterprise app case where we have entities, database, Hibernate, Spring, and all those Java enterprise tralala. Once I'm done with that, I would like to modify manually the source code so that I can develop, because I'm a developer, I'm not a designer. And once I'm done, I would like to see those modifications reflected into my diagrams, and why not do round trip engineering. So that was what it would be nice to have, to start from nothing. I mean, from practically zero JavaScript knowledge, and to have something that works and that I can modify and adjust. And some bonus points regarding customization of the tool. I like to be able to generate, to modify templates and parse rules. And now you'll ask me, why would I want to do that? Well, I mean, how many of you here are developing code in JavaScript? Okay. JavaScript is a little bit different than other languages. During my investigations, I saw that there are at least 5 or 6 ways to write, to simulate object-oriented code. And every way of writing object-oriented code has a different, you need to write the code in another format. It's not like in Java, where a class is a class. What you do with it, that's your business, but from a syntactic point of view, syntax point of view, is the same. That's why I would like to be able to define different templates and ways of generating code. And now that I'm a JavaScript developer, I would like to be able to modify these things, to configure them directly in JavaScript, to be simple, of course, who doesn't want that, and to be able to reload on the fly everything with no particular setup or additional tools. So that was the kind of tool that, if I had it, let's say 6 months ago, would have saved me, let's say, a decent amount of time. And that's how we thought that's how we started to work on Flower platform for JavaScript and HTML5 integrated with Orion. So basically, what this tool is something that converts a diagram that looks like this in an application that looks like this. I mean, you have a table. You have a table that shows the entities. When you click on it, you have sorry, it was this one that I wanted to show. Okay, so when you click on it, you have something that already works, like a crude application. I mean, create, retrieve, update, delete. So basically, that's what Flower platform for JavaScript is, and that's its objective. And now I would like to go a little bit more deeper into what that means. But before that, I would like to make sure that these two technologies that I have, I mean, Backbone.js and stuff like this. Let me ask you, how many of you use this kind of stuff? Asynchronous module definition. Okay, so let me explain what this is about. This is a piece of code that is written in JavaScript and that uses the RequireJS library. RequireJS is one alternative. There are several alternatives, but the principle for all of them is the same. So basically, your code, it's a function call, which is you call the function define. After that, you pass it an anonymous function that receives as a parameter another function that's called require. And you call this require class to have variables like this that are somehow your classes. It's some way of uh, let's say like the import in Java. And once you have them like this imported, you use them. You see here new. I make a new, or for example I can do an extend like this. What's the purpose of why do I want to use async module definition? Because when I looked on the internet, everybody said that they were using it. So I said, okay, I should use it. I began using it, and after that I began to ask myself, okay, why do I do it? And I mean, it's useful because in a project, an enterprise project, let's say you have about 20 or 25 entities that you want to display. They look, all of them more or less the same. Every screen perhaps has some customizations, but there are lots of files. And if you don't use a system like this, you need to manually import every file in every file, and you may have problems. I mean, this AMD stuff is not exactly an OSGI for JavaScript, but it helps structure dependencies and stuff like that. Okay, so that was that is one framework that I use, and you can see that this file is particular. I mean, compare a Java file, and when you generate code from UML, that's straightforward, with this one, where you have, like I said, a function call. You pass it, you pass to it an anonymous function that has as a parameter as a function, and this is not the most complex example that I have seen. Okay, and now regarding Backbone.js, has anybody used Backbone.js until now? No? Nobody? Okay, so again, why I wanted to use Backbone.js? It's the same as the first time, because I have seen that when I googled app HTML5, Bootstrap, and all these kind of things, it was among the first lines in Google. So I said it must be some kind of hot stuff if everybody uses it. And to be honest, after using it, I understand why those guys have written it, because it brings a lot of order in the code. Okay, so what's the structure? Basically, when you have a request, it is that looks like this. It's handled, and it's handled by a class, a main class that's called the router.js. Okay, via a mapping that you specify, it's a string-to-string mapping. A function is invoked, either show companies or show company taking as parameter an ID, and this function is called in order to, I mean, what does it do? It creates a model or a model collection. What is a model or a model collection? Well, it's something that stores data, but also has the responsibility of getting the data from the server. So it's so it has both of these responsibilities. I instantiate a model first of all by passing, for example, its ID, the ID of the entity that I want to have, and then it communicates with the server via RESTful services, JSON, and stuff like that to get the data. Once I have the data, exactly the same company, the same method from the router invokes a method from view.js, saying to it, okay, please render, and view.js uses a template, which is something, an HTML file with placeholders, and basically what the view does, it takes the data from the model, and it inserts it into the HTML thing, into the HTML. Okay, so let me show you a little bit what everything looks like. So here I have you see Orion, which is integrated with the Flower platform, the diagramming tool. And here are the classes that I talked about. A context collection. And here I have a view, a template, and so on. What I would like to say is that, I mean, we shouldn't, and I think that people shouldn't rely 100% on the generative powers of the tools. I mean, if they can generate a lot of code, that doesn't mean you must have a lot of code that needs to be generated. So I think that first of all, it's interesting to extract as much logic as possible and put it in some kind of object-oriented architecture. And then, when you cannot do anything more, you need to get the help of a thing that generates code. And you see here a class that is called a class. Because in order to be able to extend from a class, I need to be able. I mean, I need to have in my own project a function that is called inherit. Let me give you an example. For example, contact sample object, which is we should be here. Okay, you see, so in order to I mean, this one is one pattern to make object-oriented programming in JavaScript, among others. You have this kind of constructs. So let me show you what I have done. First of all, I have generated a context collection, that's here, and that looks like this. And you see, I extend from an abstract model collection that encapsulates as much logic as possible. And this class is somewhere here. Every applications that I have seen on the internet that I was using as prototype, they have this kind of code, but it was duplicated. So if they had the three things that they needed to show in the screen, they have 3 times this kind of code. So I tried and I succeeded to extract it and put it here. And with this occasion, I also understood that for example, if you see this that generates sample data, at the beginning I said, why do they do that? I mean, you have to, because if you don't write this, it doesn't work. I mean, it's not like in Java where this is the current object. So this is how I did it for context collection, and I have tailored it so that I can pass it here an object generator. That means an object that looks like this. And why do I need to have it? Because when I'm done with generating code, I want an application that works. I want 10 contexts with names and things like this. And when I drag relations between them, they also generate these entries, which are in fact these lines. The require entries at the top of the file, like I discussed it a bit earlier. And based on this logic, I have generated here a context table view that inherits from some class. um, and that reference is a template. Let me show you what the template looks like. Um, so a template looks like this. You see, this template is the header of a of a table. So in order for the view to be able to render, it needs something else. It needs a reference towards a view that can handle, that can render the content of an item template, which context. So this is you see a piece of HTML that has placeholders. It's a simple mechanism. So uh, this kind of construct uh, knows how to render data from a single piece of model. And that's how I managed to configure everything. I don't do this here because I wouldn't have time to explain a little bit about the internals that I told you about. And the result that I get after, so everything that I have done here takes about 7 to 8 minutes. And when I'm done with it, it generates an application that looks like this. Uh, it, it looks nice because it uses Bootstrap, and it has this kind of logic. You see, when I want to edit, I mean, it looks modern, and at least my client was happy when I showed it to him. And now we are working on writing more templates so that we can run this application server side on a Node.js server. And I have here an instance that I have customized. You see here I started to add logos, but they don't work yet. And for example, if I go here to edit, I can do it like this. Okay. And what do I use? What do I use for persistence? For persistence, see, here is the modification. I use Node.js as a server and MongoDB as a database. Okay, that was okay. That was it. Let me tell you a little bit about the project status. So we are working hard on it. We still have to do, we need to simplify the JavaScript API that people use to configure it, because Java is verbose, and we need to use perhaps proxies to make it from this to this. We need to tighten the integration with Orion. For example, when you generate file, the content tree should be automatically updated, the tree. We need to finish the integration with Eclipse, because it works also as an Eclipse plugin that you can put in the IDE. And we need to finish the mobile version, because everything that I have shown, diagramming wise, it works verbatim on mobile devices, iOS and Android. We expect to release it November or beginning December, the first beta version that people could see and could play. That was it. Thank you so much. I would like, if you want as well, provide us some feedback. What do you think? If this kind of tool would be useful for you or for people that you know. And don't forget to rate the talk in the Eclipse rating system. And now, if you have questions regarding what I have shown. Yeah? We didn't try it yet, but it is an objective as well. I mean, now the next step is to have it running on Node.js, and after that, we want to make it work in, in PhoneGap, and I have seen that there are interesting solutions, top code, for rendering and this kind of stuff. Yeah, yes, yes, yes. From what I have seen, it won't be so difficult to do it, but we need to do it to make it work one click. And one thing that I forgot to mention is that I have spoken about templates, about the ability to modify them in JavaScript. These templates are taken from a directory, from the computer or from the server, that actually it's a GitHub repository. So if you modify templates and you add content to them, you add value to them, you can fork the main repository of templates, and you can contribute to it, and vice versa. I mean, from time to time, you can look to see what other technologies are there, and you can take a look and try them for your project. Yeah, something. Any other question? No. Okay. Thank you very much.